Mom alert. How many moms do I have out there? I'm one, and boy, do I have a message that we all need to pay attention to. Our children's brains are under siege. That's right. We've had all kinds of issues. You know, I started as a pediatrician, and we've had all kinds of issues in the history of pediatrics with children's health. First, it was infectious disease, then it was more developmental type stuff. Now it's really their brains. And here is what's happening, and I'm so concerned, and I want us to all be aware. Our kids are really developing neuroinflammation. That's literally their brains on fire. They're not able to focus. They're not able to concentrate. They're not able to read or write the way they used to even a generation ago. What is happening? In fact, many of you probably already realize that things like dyslexia, apraxia, ADD, and ADHD, all of these things are on the rise. Well, here's what I think is happening. I think there's a big environmental component to all of this. We have more toxins in our food, our air, our water, and in so many places than ever before. Glyphosate, the derivative of Roundup, right? We've talked about this many times, but glyphosate is prevalent. Even when we're trying to buy organic or drink the right water or do all these things, there's cross-pollination, there's cross-contamination, and it's damaging their gut intestinal barrier and in turn affecting their brains. I want really all of us to understand that we have to be thinking proactively about this. Even I, with everything I know, have had to back into this, and it's been so frustrating for me as a mom, let alone as a doctor. So I'm going to tell you two stories, and then we're going to get into an action plan, because action is where it's at, and there is a message of hope and inspiration here. So two stories. The first one, we're going to talk about Cubby, my son. So in the early days, he was in first grade, and he was a preschool superstar to begin with, but as he entered elementary school, we noticed that he started to fatigue more easily, and maybe we needed to hold him back or do something differently. Well, I wasn't going to take that for an answer because I knew what a sharp little kiddo he had been before, so we brought him into the practice and sat through and did all our tests, and here's the bottom line, really the piece of information I want to deliver. He had fat malabsorption. He was losing fat from his stool. That in turn was making him super tired. He wasn't absorbing his nutrients, and that was creating fine motor weakness, which is why his handwriting was off and he was getting so tired throughout the day. So our next steps were pretty clear and pretty simple. We put him into OT. We also started giving him enzymes to help him digest fats better. He became gluten-free, and he is thriving to this day, and he's back to being his superstar self. You guys have seen him probably in some of the videos. He's quite the character. Second story is my daughter, a little bit different, always did well, and hit middle school, and we hit a couple of road bumps there, where with her hormonal shifts and changes and electronics, she started to show up with more and more inattention. So with her, I had to have a whole action plan to really help calm inflammation down, the inflammation triggered by her hormones, her diet, electronics, her sleep cycles, and so much more to save her brain. And we're right in the middle of it, still trying to get her to her superpowered self. But I only tell you these stories because it's something that I see over and over again in the practice as well. So many kids can't focus, can't think, are regressing at different stages of their academic career. Our kids' brains, as I started out saying, are under siege. Here's what you need to know as a mom. First of all, diet matters. Get those healthy fats in. Really work hard on cutting down sugar, dyes, additives, everything you can do to set those habits early. I promise the children come into it. They rebel for a period of time, but then they come into their own understanding, knowing that they feel better when they follow this advice. I would say second, really watch the sugar. The sugar is the biggest issue for so many of these children because they're already getting a toxic overload. They're already getting glyphosate that we can't control to a certain extent. So really watching sugar and understanding how much sugar they're getting, because it is a neurotoxin, and we've got to be able to reduce it and bring it down to those 3 teaspoons a day or somewhere under 25 grams. I would say the third is to really watch their sleep cycles. They need to fall asleep, stay asleep. They need that 10 hours of sleep on average. And then the fourth, electronics. Again, it is triggering neuroinflammation. It is again impacting their ability to think, to reason, to explain stuff, and it continues to be a problem. Now next, we get deeper and really get into gut health. If your child is feeling fat, like Cubby, or low in vitamin E or B vitamins or magnesium, like so many of the patients that have come through our practice at Center Spring. That is something that needs to be addressed for optimal brain function. So many people go the route of getting like the big evaluations, right? And all the testing and the medications and doing all that, but never stop and think about what the gut-brain axis is doing and how we need to balance the two. Doesn't mean you won't need medications, but the two need to be balanced to really bring our children into their fullest potential. So understanding what's happening with the gut and really working with a practitioner who can break that down for you. Things like apraxia and dyslexia, some of those bigger names and bigger diagnoses, well, it's fat malabsorption. It's fat-soluble vitamin deficiency, A, D, E, and K, and it's often food allergies and food intolerances. So putting the pieces of all of this together will help us to save our children's brains, lowering their toxic load, watching the key lifestyle markers, guarding their gut health, and really safe harboring their diet and even their electronic use is one way we as moms can begin to take back our children's brains. I post new YouTube videos every Thursday. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.